Welcome back to another installment of The Lowdown, your series brought to you by D&L Transport, where we are bringing you raw, candid interviews with some fantastic folks, some freight brokers that have had some success and have a great story to tell. Today, we are thrilled to be joined by someone who fits that bill perfectly, David in Florida. David's a good friend of mine, and I am so happy to be chatting with him today. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Now, you haven't been a freight broker for your entire career. I know you've spent some time on both coasts. Tell us kind of how you got started. You know, I know you're an Arizona State grad, which is okay, but tell us a little bit about your career and how you kind of rolled into what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. I didn't even know that there was a profession that was a freight broker up until about, I would say, 10 years or so ago. And someone who we both know who works at D&L, we'll just call him the Fat Fisherman. He was doing it. I came from the financial services world and did that for, I don't even know, 15 years, something like that. And when things dried up there, back financial crisis times, I was looking for something else. And the Fat Fisherman was doing this. And it was funny because I thought to myself, you know, what kind of a broker is a freight broker? I didn't even know it existed. So I asked him about it. I saw he was doing relatively well with it, and I trusted him. And he said, if you want to get into this, you know, it's something that I'll take some time and I'll train you. There's not it's not too complicated to get into. You just need someone who can show you the ropes. He said he'd be willing to do it. And that's how I got into it.
Yeah. And was it you're obviously very good at what you do. Was it an easy transition for you? Did you kind of jump right in and feel like you had some momentum right away, or was it kind of a longer drip for you?
So it's funny, right? He gave me, I think, the sort of guidance that most people would get when starting. He said, well, he showed me the trucks, and I had some background with trucks because my dad was in trucking. So I knew a little bit about it, not a lot. But he gave me basically a printout of the trucks. He said, here's your drive in, you know, here's your flatbed. You know, they're either 48 or 53 feet, and here's a step deck, and here's what they do and why just general stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he said, here's ThomasNet. And, basically just try to think of stuff that's big and call.
Which is the ThomasNet's kind of a sales lead or it's an online kind of company info database?
Yeah. I would say company info database is good. You can put in different categories and things like that, for whatever product you're looking for. And I think a lot of different types of people would use that. A lot of people that are in our business, tons of them, I think, use that just to try to get in touch with manufacturers and, companies like that.
So so kind of a grind early on, obviously, as you're learning the business and trying to generate some relationships. At some point in that, at least maybe early time period, you had to have felt like something was turning for you. I assume it wasn't overnight, but at some point you had to have thought, okay, I'm getting a little bit of momentum in my career here. Do you recall when that was, and maybe what precipitated that kind of shift in momentum for you? Maybe an early success story?
Well, I got extremely lucky, and I know this because one of the categories that I called, and that I've had other people try to call, that I've guided a little bit on, on getting started. They're like the number 3 company that's listed in a specific category in ThomasNet. And somehow, I don't know how, I still have them on my third phone call. I can remember what the guy said. He said, I'm getting hit a lot by freight brokers right now, but send me your info. I still have that customer 8 years or 9 years later. So I got really, and that could have taken 2 months, right? So I was lucky to get a customer within a week.
Is it the same guy?
Same people. I can't get rid of them sometimes, I think. But same customer. And but when I started to get some traction really was, and not to make this a D&L commercial, but I feel like it's important because it's true. And I tell this to other people. I had worked at this freight brokerage company that the Double F was working at. And, it was difficult because we would cold call, and then only to find out after you make all these phone calls, you get people listen to you and all this stuff. And finally they would say, okay, great. I'm going to give you an opportunity to do some shipping with me. And then I would call my back office and be like, hey, listen, XYZ company wants to do some shipping. And more than half the time they would come back and say, well, they don't have the type of credit standards that are up to our standards.
Right.
And,
so very strict.
After all of that work, yeah, it was frustrating. And it was just a frustrating thing, but I didn't have any, I just thought, again, I had been doing this for a few months and I didn't have anybody else who I had spoken to in the industry. So I didn't know anything about it. I said, this industry sucks. I don't get it. You work this hard and then nobody wants to give these people credit. And like, what am I doing? And that was my first experience. And how did it change for me? Well, Jim Langenbach gave me a phone call one day, and he asked me what my biggest frustrations were. And it was what I just shared with you. And he said, well, we're a little bit different there. We'll give you, we'll take a chance on your customers, and that's not going to happen here. We'll give your customers a chance to prove to us that they're willing, they're going to pay. And then all of these customers that I had called in the past that had said yes to me, but then I couldn't work with, I called them back and some of them said yes. And, just sort of from there, I felt like that's when I started to gain traction. It was a change in where I was working that really did that. And that's the truth.
And do you still, it sounds like you still have a pretty good memory of that call with Jim. He's quite the character. What, do you still talk to him?
Yeah, I talk to him whenever I see him. Every now and then he'll call me, he'll send me emails. I visited him in Florida. I'm in Florida now. I plan on doing that again, probably over the next couple of months. I keep in touch with him. And what's funny is, I always tell this story to Jim, and I think this is an important story because Jim, I think maybe Jim was under the impression that I was someone who maybe I wasn't when he recruited me. And I think once I came on to D&L, he wasn't real impressed with the amount of business that I was doing.
So he thought you had a more robust book, or he thought he was actually calling somebody else?
No, No, he thought I had a more robust book than I did. And, and he got that probably in part from me. We didn't go into a lot of detail about it, but he liked me and I liked him. And I had the Double F with me, and, it was 2 agents coming over, and I think he felt good about that. But shortly thereafter, he had some buyer's remorse. And, he made a phone call to me and basically said, maybe another time, another place. One of those.
He didn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, and I told him, you're not firing me, Jim. That's not happening. That's not the way this is going to go down. I said, I'm going to be successful at this, and you just have to give me more time. I'm just getting going. I've got a lot of leads, and I've only been doing this for 6 months, and trust me, I'm going to make it work. And he said, all right, I'll talk to you in a few months. And that was it. And I always bring that up to Jim because I think it's funny, number one. But I think it's important. It's important for a lot of people. And I tell that story to people because, I've been lucky enough to do pretty well in this business. And I was just about, if he had fired me, I would have quit. That would have been it. And he didn't. And, here I am.
Well, and you obviously are very successful. You would be freight brokerage or otherwise. It's just kind of who you are. But how has your life changed? Because I know it can be a really stressful business. It's a constantly on business, which is okay, but that can present challenges for a personal life. And not to get too personal with you, but how do you manage that? Because I see you daily and you're very good at that. But I guess how do you manage that? The stresses of this industry, And if what advice would you give to somebody else who's trying to manage it themselves?
Well, I can remember years ago, I was complaining to my mother about when my mother was with us about work and something, and I was doing fine in financial services, and the context of the conversation was basically me complaining to my mother about work, and I'll never forget what she said, and what she said to me was, "You know what, Dave? Cry me a river." Right. And that was and it stuck with me, because what she was basically saying was, you do really well, and there's people out there digging ditches, and I don't want to hear it. Right. So and I think that has guided me, where it's when I am real busy and I'm in the weeds and I can't, you're in the moment anyway, so you don't get it. Where it gets to me more is when it's 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock, and I'm just trying to get to the gym or something, and the phone starts ringing and emails, or I get to the gym early in the morning, and even if I get there at 6, some of my customers get up early, and at off times when you just want your own time, it can get to me. But what would I tell people? Listen, if you're not successful, you're probably not getting those emails and phone calls at all of these weird hours. So
Right.
You would do anything when you're starting out to get those phone calls and emails at 7 o'clock at night, or on Sunday when someone's asking for a freight quote. You would beg for that. You say,
Right.
give me a freight quote anytime. So I try to remember that. And I would tell that to other people. Remember when you started. Remember how you were begging people to send you a freight quote, and I try to remember that. All right, well, so what? It's Sunday morning. You know what? Guy wants something on Sunday morning and he's working, then I should work. And I always keep that in mind.
Well, and when you do get some downtime, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, who is David outside of the office? Do you? I heard you've got pretty good pickleball game. Tell us a little bit about what you're kind of. How do you blow off steam?
Well, certainly pickleball is an activity that I'm pretty I would say pretty good at, and something be something that I would recommend to other people to blow off some steam. But, I don't know. You know what? Eve, my girlfriend, always says, you're two different people. When I'm on the weekend, I'm one person, and during the week, I'm another.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. So what am I doing when I'm blowing off steam? Man, I don't know. I like to stay active. I make sure that I go to the gym 5 or 6 times a week, all the time. I make sure that on the weekend, I make sure that I go out and eat at 2 or 3 good restaurants, really good restaurants, the best ones I can find, because I feel like that's my reward. I'm almost 50, so there's only a certain amount of things us 50-year-olds do, and that's one of them. You
Pickleball and restaurants.
Yeah, that's what we do. And so that sort of stuff. I don't, I go to the gym, and not that much, but I will say on the weekends, I'm a much better fun-loving person than I am during the week.
Well, and one more kind of non-industry related question, but you're fairly new to Tampa. Obviously, you like your restaurants. Are you getting acclimated to their restaurant game?
Yeah, for sure. What's good about it now is it's the off season. So I moved here in April, and that's really when all of the tourists are leaving, and it's been scorching out here for the last whatever it's been 6 months. But the good thing about that is you can get into these restaurants, because I can remember when I would come down here on vacation, they're all jammed, and you're making reservations a month, 2 months in advance. What's good about being, I guess, local at this point is you can get into all of the better restaurants and just show up, sit at the bar, and either eat at the bar or get a table, and it's cool. Yeah. So yeah, I've been to almost all of them.
You have some great insight. I'm always impressed with your insight and perspective. How have you seen the industry change, if you have? But how have you seen the industry change from when you first started hammering Thomasnet to where you are now? And then relatedly, Dave, how do you see that progressing over the next 5 years? I know that's kind of a loaded question, but I always like your perspective.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. So taking the second part of it, I see the industry in 5 years the same way it is today, because I don't think the industry has changed anything in the last 8 years. So we had this big e-logs thing, all that stuff, and you know what? That for a little bit of time there was a little bit of a period where that took some time getting used to. But the reality is, it's the same drivers, the same companies doing the same thing, and I'm doing the same thing. It hasn't changed one bit. It's the same thing now. It's just you got guys that have to follow some more rules, right? And you get accustomed to dealing with that, and so it's the same business. And I anticipate in 5 years it's going to be the same business. I think. The overriding on top of everything is going to be economically, what goes on, and politically, and and all of that. But and that's going to dictate how freight trends are. But that's something we can't control anyways. And I always try to say I can't control what's going to go on in the economy. So I just do my job and hope for the best, right? So I see the industry exactly the way it is today in 5 years, but more crowded. And that's the issue. I just think that. So if you ask me difference, it's the crowdedness, if that's a word, of the industry.
You mean on the brokerage side?
On the brokerage side, there's so many people that are getting into this business just because people go to college and they're not specialized, and they come out and they used to, and you and I have talked about this, they used to come out and do other sources. They used to do life insurance sales. They used to do, they used to do financial services. They used to do a host of different careers that really, for an outgoing person that doesn't have a specialized degree, that now they go into, crazy enough, freight brokerage. And these companies are hiring like mad. And, where it used to be they were getting 5 phone calls a week or 10 phone calls a week. Now our customers are getting 10 a day, and it's nonstop. And it's just, I would say the biggest difference is the amount of competition, because you've got so many people that are trying to enter this field. And, it's made it certainly more difficult, I think, to start in this field, but that's just the nature of the business.
Well, and with that added competition, you're obviously always really good with your relationships. I've seen you in action, but what's your secret? I mean, what's your secret to kind of combating that crowded space and kind of maintaining your customer relationships?
It's a good question. Look, I wanted to focus when I started this. There was nothing that bugged me more than someone who I would call up and they would just say, "Okay, yeah, I'll put you on a distribution list," and then they would send me a rate quote and there'd be 30 other people on it. I would I'd be like giving them the 2 fingers without them seeing it, like that. That would bug me, right? So I would always try to find people that needed a certain level of service, right? Mm-hmm. And I think those people are still clients because they do. It's funny. I joke around with people sometimes that know me and people that have worked with me, and I say I specialize in companies that need that, because if you're just going out there and trying to say, "Oh, I'm going to do this for you cheaper," right? I just don't get that. I have no desire. I've never had a desire to save anybody money, right? I've always had a desire to enhance their experience. And I think if you focus that way, enhancing experiences as opposed to saving money, someone else can always come in and save them $50, but can someone provide a better overall experience? Well, go ahead, try. Maybe you can, but I don't, that's a much harder road to get into when you have a deep relationship that's based upon you providing a service as opposed to you providing a rate. And I think that's the key to it, getting the right customers that appreciate you, they value you as a partner, and aren't necessarily just worried about, how do I get the cheapest rate?
Yeah, no, and I love when we have talked about that before, and I love when you say it, because I'm impressed with that approach, because so often you that's what you're hearing in the industry is kind of the pure cost approach, and I've always admired your different way to look at it, because certainly it's working for you. What's your ideal brokerage company look like, and how can your brokerage company, meaning kind of the back office, kind of support you in your endeavor to kind of battle this competition and maintain your, solid customer relationships?
Well, I think as agents, we're out there, we're out front, we're dealing with the customers, but it's super important to have a team behind you that can handle all of the other aspects of the business, which are a lot. There's a lot that goes with this, and I just think that a company that lets you do your job, and if they trust you and you trust them, and they say, go out and do your job, do it right, represent our company the right way. Don't, make sure that you're mindful of that you're representing, a brand, our brand, and, do it the right way, but go out and do it yourself. And whatever you need, we're here to back you up. If you have specific, situations that arise where you need some guidance, or your customer needs, specific services that might be a little bit outside of what the norm might be.
Or maybe a
like
quick
that.
answer on a carrier, or maybe customer credit, something like immediate response.
It's just getting, we set up new, and again, I don't have a lot of, I don't talk to a lot of people in this business outside of here, but we set up new carriers in, I don't know, usually 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever it is. We get credit questions answered, and we give credit to, new customers at certain levels right away, automatically. Future credit decisions are always done quickly. All of that stuff, because we want answers, and yes or no. And most of the time it's yes. And, everything is always really quick and always well done. And the people, and that, I think that's important.
Yeah. Well, this podcast and this interview right now is about you, Dave, but I can say from my perspective, one of the things I love about my job is some of the personal relationships I've developed. And so, Dave and I have developed a great, we started as kind of business associates, and now we're, I'd say that's kind of just on the wayside now. Now we're buddies, travel together, and really enjoy seeing each other. So I really do appreciate that. So.
Yeah, me too. It's, it's funny. You wind up, you go to work for a company, and then years later you become friends with all these people, and not business friends. They're not business. There's business friends, and then there's friends, right? And everyone has business friends, but you become friends with people who you genuinely care about. You would genuinely do anything for, and it's kind of cool. Yeah,
no, I agree. And I can't appreciate enough you coming on today. And again, thank you, and great feedback. You've always, like I said before, had great perspective, and just appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Cool, man. It's my pleasure. Thanks for offering.